In a small, forgotten town surrounded by dense forests and fog-covered hills, there was an old mansion, long abandoned and falling into ruin. People in the town whispered about strange occurrences that had happened in the house many years ago. They said the mansion was haunted, and every time the wind howled through the trees, eerie whispers could be heard drifting from within its walls. No one dared go near the mansion, except for the most curious or the most foolish. Mark, a young man from the town, had always been drawn to the stories. He didn't believe in ghosts or curses. He thought it was just local superstition meant to scare children. One evening, driven by curiosity and a desire to prove the townsfolk wrong, he decided to venture into the mansion alone. As Mark approached the mansion, the air seemed to grow heavier, and the sky above turned dark, as if the clouds were closing in. The mansion loomed before him, with broken windows and a sagging roof. Despite the chill that ran down his spine, Mark entered through the creaking door, determined to uncover the truth. Inside, the house was filled with dust and the faint smell of decay. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, and old, rotting furniture lay scattered throughout the halls. He explored deeper into the mansion, finding strange artifacts and old belongings that seemed to belong to a family long gone. In a forgotten corner of the house, he found an old, leather-bound journal. It was covered in dust, and as he opened it, he saw the scrawled words of the last person who had lived in the mansion. The entries spoke of strange shadows that moved of their own accord, of voices whispering in the dark, and of a curse that had bound the mansion to the spirits of the dead. Suddenly, a cold wind blew through the mansion, extinguishing the candle Mark had lit earlier. The temperature dropped dramatically, and the shadows around him began to shift unnaturally. It was then that Mark realized he was not alone. From the corners of the room, dark, shadowy figures began to emerge, moving toward him. Their forms were blurry, indistinct, like dark smoke, but their eyes glowed with an unnatural light. As the shadows closed in, Mark's heart raced. He tried to move, but his legs felt heavy, as though the darkness itself was weighing him down. The whispers grew louder, repeating his name over and over. Desperate to escape, he sprinted toward the door, but it slammed shut before he could reach it. He turned around to face the dark, creeping figures. They surrounded him, their cold fingers brushing against his skin. Mark fought to break free, but the shadows pulled him into the darkness, their whispers growing into a deafening roar. His body grew numb, and the last thing he saw before everything went black was the gleaming, hollow eyes of the figures closing in on him. The next morning, the townsfolk noticed that Mark had never returned. They searched the mansion, but there was no trace of him. The mansion was silent, as if it had never known his presence. But that night, the wind howled again, and the whispers returned, floating out of the mansion, calling for the next soul to fall into their grasp.